Learning transference, enhancing transfer of harassment prevention training into professional practice. A dissertation proposal defense by David Davis at the University of Southern California, Rossier School of Education, February-March 2022. Research has indicated that less than 15% of learning actually transfers from a training program to the workplace. Even though in the United States, annually, organizations spend upwards of $150 billion a year on employee learning. In fact, if organizations were to evaluate learning transference and support their employees once they've come back to the job, they'd see a substantial improvement in their productivity and actually get a positive return on the investment. My study explores two primary problems regarding learning transference, and that is training evaluations and organizational support. The lack of transferring knowledge, skills, and behaviors from training back to the workplace is an important problem to address. Failure to transfer what is learned in training to the workplace is a cost-bearing issue both for the individual and the organization. It's important to solve this problem because it impacts national economics, organization, and individual performance. In the United States, between the years 2010 and 2020, organizations paid out $440 million in non-litigated settlements in response to harassment complaints. Research indicates that the failure to transfer what is learned in training to the workplace impacts employee productivity, which impacts the organization, and ultimately this has a negative impact on our national economics. These research questions were chosen to help gather the voice of managers and the leaders of people, to help them in giving them a voice with determining the perceived value and the impact that the harassment prevention training has on the skills and behaviors of the employees at the University of Research. It will guide my research into the impact of UR's organizational support on learning transference. The manager plays an important role in supporting employees and encouraging them to use what they've learned in training. The theoretical framework that will be guiding this research is Albert Bandera's social cognitive theory, operationalized via Don Kirkpatrick's 4-level evaluation model. Bandera's social cognitive theory addresses three primary areas of influence: the personal, the behavioral, and the environment. Grounded in Bandera's social cognitive theory, this study examines the relationship between employee motivation, self-efficacy, transference of skills, and knowledge under the area of person. At the same time, behaviors transferred from online training programs to the job will be examined under the scope of behavior. Lastly, the impact of organizational processes, procedures, and culture on the job transference will be evaluated under the area of environment. Bandera describes human learning as resulting from a triadic reciprocity between the environment, behavior, and person. People aren't driven to act solely on environmental conditions or internal dynamics. Rather, it's an interaction of the person, behavior, and environment stimuli that influences each other. This study integrates Kirkpatrick's 4-level evaluation framework with social cognitive theory. It'll evaluate the trainee's reaction, knowledge transfer, behavior change, and organizational change in relation to the online harassment prevention training launched at UR. The 4 key topics addressed in this study are learning transfer in the work context, harassment prevention training, best practices in training design, and Kirkpatrick's evaluation model. The literature in the learning transfer in the work context section describes the importance of supervision and organizational support. It addresses learner characteristics, learner motivation, and learning transference. In the harassment prevention training literature, I describe what the literature states regarding learning transference issues pertaining to the harassment prevention training. In the best practices section, I discuss how training designers need to incorporate opportunities for the learner to reflect on past domain knowledge, as well as integrating opportunities in practice for the newly learned material in the course design. Finally, in the conceptual framework section, I discuss how the study implements social cognitive theory and the Kirkpatrick model to explore organizational and stakeholder capacity for learning transference. Proposed data collection. Data will be collected using an explanatory, sequential mixed methods design using both quantitative and qualitative methods. The study will begin with a quantitative data gathering and an analysis, and then move to a deeper understanding of the data through qualitative interviews. Survey data gives a numeric description of the opinions and attitudes of a sample that can be generalized to a larger population. In this study, the first phase of data collection will be compiled through a census survey developed in Qualtrics. The survey will be sent to between 3,000 and 4,000 UR managerial employees who have completed the harassment prevention course. After completing the initial survey, a subset of 12 employees will be randomly chosen from a volunteer pool to be interviewed from those who have completed the initial Qualtrics survey. The purpose of the survey is to understand the employees' perceptions, opinions regarding the knowledge and skills, behavior, and critical behaviors, and the critical drivers as it relates to learning transference from the harassment prevention training, and to identify emergent issues. As previously mentioned, participants of the study will include all managers of people at UR who have completed the mandatory harassment prevention training. There are approximately 4,000 management employees at the University of Research that are required to complete the 2-hour online harassment prevention course. After the initial survey has been completed, the second group of participants will be recruited and given the option to participate in an online Zoom interview. In order to maintain anonymity of the survey responses, interview recruitment will take place via an independent link introduced at the end of the survey. A total of 12 managers of people will be selected among the volunteers for an online interview.